Welcome everyone, Adam the Woo here as the recording of this Thursday, June 30th, 2022. I am in Salem, Massachusetts for the first time ever, drinking a piping hot caffeinated beverage from a place called The Brew Box, Witch's Brew. And look who's behind me, the one and only Ben Lawrence.
What's up, guys?
I have not seen you since Epcot's 35th anniversary in
dude.
October of what?
That was
2017.
Yeah.
I think I may have saw you a year later at Disneyland, possibly.
Yeah, I think it was 5 years ago.
So it's been 4 or 5 years.
It's been a while. It's definitely been a while.
And we are in Salem, which is a spooky place. Why were you here a few years ago?
I was here probably 4 or 5 years ago filming the filming locations for Hocus Pocus. That was just a crazy task, hunting out all the locations, hitting all the spots. It was a wild time. So that's the only time I've ever been here before.
Okay, you're gonna have to show me those, but I also want to see some haunted things and some interesting architecture.
Okay.
Sound good? All right, I'm inviting you to join me and the one and only Ben Lawrence. Is there another Ben Lawrence?
Probably, possibly, somewhere out there in the world. But as far as you know,
Where's your coffee?
I don't have I'm not a coffee drinker. I've never really had coffee in my life, surprisingly. I have a lot of energy, so a lot of people are surprised by that.
You can tell I'm not content that you're All right, join me and Ben Lawrence. Shall you? Now there will be an assortment of very, kind of themed around this area stores. Right here at the shops at 127, there is a wand shop, kind of reminiscent of, Harry Potter. Why Not's Wands, Salem, Mass. The finest for handmade magical wands since 1692. Find your wand today. I'm getting some serious Harry Potter vibes, Wizarding World vibes, even though this isn't associated with Universal Hollywood or Florida. Getting some Harry Potter and Wizarding World vibes at Why Not Wands. Since 1692, they've been having wands? Yeah, there's pretty much a museum for anything that you could wrap your head around when it comes to this type of stuff. And down at the end of this alleyway, this very interesting mural here on the side, but look at the end, there's a dragon and a gargoyle. I'm loving this place already. Now, I will say parking was very difficult to find around here. You got these parking meters here. We parked in a lot. Not only are there a lot of cones, they were cones out here, there's also an assortment of museums, including this place over here is the Witch Museum. Look at this sculpture here. Okay, now this explains who this is. Roger Conant, born in 1592, passed on in 1679, first settler of Salem back in 1627. I was means through grace assisting me to stop the flight of those that were here with me, and that by utter denial to go away with them, who would have gone either for England or mostly for Virginia. Do you understand what that means?
I have absolutely no idea.
You ever been in the Salem Witch Museum?
I have not. I've wanted to go for a long time though.
Should we do it?
Why not?
Okay, now that I'm seeing this, doesn't look like I'm allowed to bring a camera in there, so I think we're gonna keep perusing on. Might come back by, but yeah, I don't think you can go in with a camera. At least you can't have a 1980s Clark Griswold style camera in there.
The old Sony VX.
And do not attempt to sing karaoke in there either, because that karaoke mic's not allowed. This place is given the nickname Witch City. They even have a mall. Look at that. Witch City Mall. And they're doing a throwback night over here at the cinema. And they're playing Wayne's World. I really like the architecture in this area. These churches, kind of gothic-y looking church here. This is St. Peter's Episcopal Church, and what I'm noticing is out front these headstones remind me a lot of the Haunted Mansion. Look at some of the way the headstones, like the way they look. These date back to the mid-1700s. There's 1769, the Body of Cap. Possibly a nickname? The Body of Cap? And then over here, what does it mean of consumption? So it says of consumption, like, I don't know what that term means. Like ate too much?
It's too full.
And in that tower, Salem's oldest bell, which was cast in 1740, is now up in the bell tower installed in 1887. So you figure that bell was 147 years old before they even put it up in the bell tower.
Wow, an old bell.
There's an old joke I heard when I was young about Quasimodo needing to find a replacement to ring the bell in the tower. He hired a guy that had no arms, so the guy would have to run into the bell and smash into the bell with his face. And the guy missed the bell one time, fell off, plummeted down to the bottom. When the authorities showed up, they asked Quasimodo if they knew the guy. He goes, I didn't catch his name, but his face rings a bell. All right, here's a little placard over here on the wall. Now, I can't figure out how to pronounce this word. G-A-O-L. But this building was built in 1684. It was empty in 1813, demolished in 1956. But when they rebuilt it, I guess is what raise means.
Yeah, rebuilt.
But in 1692, they had witch trials here, and many were accused and then eventually imprisoned right here at this spot.
Witch jail.
Such an interesting history here.
Right?
Look at that other church steeple up there. That looks like it could have been either an old courthouse or an old bank right there, dated 1841. Here's another old cathedral as well. Right next to Salem Cycle. Wonder if they've ever taken down that bike down any sweet slides. Is another little placard here, a weather-worn placard saying, nearly opposite this spot stood in the middle of the street, a building devoted back in 1677 until 1718 that the municipal and judicial uses, and they condemned. Those were condemned. 19 people met their demise right here because of practicing witchcraft. Across the street, nearly opposite this spot, right over there is the City Hall. So I'm guessing probably in front of City Hall or somewhere right here on the Kinsman.
Somewhere where the street is around here.
Wow, now there's just people chowing down on some grub. Now they are doing some construction down here on some of the streets. But I wanted to show this. This is dedicated to Samantha Stevens from Bewitched, presented by TV Land. This sculpture here, look at this. Yeah, when you think of famous witches, you think of Bewitched. Right there, that's a pretty good likeness. Sitting on the little half moon and a cloud with the half moon on her broom. It's pretty good. Look at that entryway there.
Definitely horror movie vibes.
And then right across the way, this old building is the Dungeon Museum. They have these at Magic Kingdom, which is always interesting to me.
Oh yeah, over by like Liberty Square.
You could go to Magic Kingdom.
Help me!
I'm at the happiest place on earth.
So happy!
This plaque was originally located on Federal Street, the old jail site 2 blocks north, but was moved here. Here stood one of those G-A-O-L words. So this is one of the second spots that they were accused. Okay, we're going up the stairs. What sold me on this was the fact that it was recommended by Gourmet Magazine. These other ones, not so much, but the fact that, you know what, I'm going in because it's recommended. How long do you think this sign's been here?
Long enough that Gourmet Magazine was popular enough to put it on the sign.
I've never read that magazine.
Me either.
Okay, went ahead and paid the $13 admission. They're gonna take us down to the dungeon soon. But look at this, this is a test to let you know if you would be determined to be one. And for $2, you can get one of these that says, be it hereby declared that blank. You could put anyone in there. Ben Lawrence has been accused.
I've gone full witch.
I think what's gonna happen is they're gonna recreate a trial in here. Got these mannequins over here. Okay, they did a little interpretation of the trial. I wasn't allowed to film. They said please no filming during the acting, but it was pretty good. Going down to the dungeon. They're going down the stairs now.
then their measurements were used here to recreate it. So as you're looking in the different windows, you're seeing the real cell sizes that they found. Plus they were holding people in Boston and Ipswich as well. Now, when it's full, there are people in both the cells and the floor you're looking at when you come around the corner.
It's very dark in
Yeah,
here.
10 people who lived in the house during the day.
Very,
those
very
who
dark in
practiced
here.
what
Oh.
they're supposed to do, while the minister is
She was saying that these were the size of the real cells. They were really tiny.
Except to go to church with the family. So the girls are home sitting in the corner quiet. The minister is home practicing 12 hours of service. Now the whole community goes to church.
I feel like I'm waiting for something to jump out. Yeah, it jumps like a scare actor.
How we like to live in hell. Because these people sincerely believe that almost everyone born is predestined to go to heaven. So if you could sort of imagine what might, he didn't even want the local sheriff to have any idea what his real identity was. And to this day, we still don't know who he was. But on that one day a month, he arrives and it's his job.
All right, that was interesting.
Spooky, definitely very spooky.
I think I'm going to edit out the last scene because it might be a little too
yeah,
intense.
that might be a little too heavy.
So
for
the
some
last
people.
scene, was pretty intense. You just have to see it with your own eyes.
Yeah, it's
I don't know if it's
on your own.
I don't know if it's appropriate for a video, but
Yeah, some people it might not go over very well.
yeah, but pretty
It
interesting
was
experience.
interesting, very you know, historical, but I thought somebody was gonna come around the corner.
I was waiting for like an HHN moment, like a not scary farm.
Yeah.
This is the Chamber of Commerce right here, and it looks as if there's a letter here in the window. I thought the letter was going to say something, but it's not. It's just an example of what a letter would look like. The address is 310 and a half. Built circa 1642, restored in 1946. There's like a castle next to this. And across the way in this little courtyard, the McIntyre Historic District. This is interesting. There used to be a pharmacist right here on the corner in front of that house that's sitting there. And you said one of the locations from Hocus Pocus is right here in this area too?
Yeah, right down the street is Allison's house from the movie.
Oh wow, this was the very first church in the town. Look at that, it's a Unitarian congregation. Founded in 1692. No, 1629. The Ropes Mansion. So this was the one in the movie?
Yeah, so this was Allison's house in Hocus Pocus.
Now, did they film the new movie that's coming out here too?
I think they filmed a new one in Rhode Island, as far as I know.
Now, I'm not even going to pretend I have never seen Hocus Pocus. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I've never seen it. I really have never seen it. But I like Bette Midler movies. Beach is my favorite Bette Midler movie.
Bette Midler is pretty good
Or
actress.
Down and Out in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, Bette Midler.
But for some reason, Hocus Pocus slipped past my radar. Now, I do know a lot about the movie because I have a lot of friends that are into it. World of Micah has done the filming locations. You have done the filming locations. The Sanderson sisters have appeared at Disney events.
Oh yeah.
So I know about the movie, and I've seen certain scenes, but I've never seen the whole movie in its entirety.
I have watched that movie enough for the rest of my life. When I did the filming locations, I had to analyze that movie scene by scene, track down all the locations, and it's a pretty good movie. So I think you might like it if you.
I'm gonna put it on my
chance.
list to watch one day.
Watch it around Halloween time. They got the sequel coming out.
Could be a Halloween flick. This has a very Scream Ghostface kind of vibe. I don't know if it's supposed to be Ghostface, but it kind of has that vibe right here at this used furniture and antique shop. But I noticed over here, this electrical box is a real beehive of activity because there's actual bees spray painted on the side of the electrical box. Oh, hello there. How's it going? You know what's the temperature out here right now? Oh, that doesn't work? Take a look, they're doing some work down here. Look at this old electric box here. Pouring some concrete. It's hypnotizing. We're going to do a few other places, one of them being Count Orlok's Museum of Movie, kind of like a wax museum. It was pretty awesome, but they were very adamant about no filming. And over here underneath the Coven's cottage is like a wooden Viking ship bench that you can sit on. Right there in the middle, it's like a little bench right there. You
Need Thor's hammer. Heading off to Viking lands.
And now walking down the sidewalk, gonna head over to the Salem Wax Museum, going through this little courtyard with these blue painted trees. And for a few dollars, you get this little map with some of the info about the general layout of the land of where I'm now standing. Just some of the stats here. The size of it is 1.47 acres. Earliest date, 1673. And then what some of the common phrases mean, like memento mori. Relict refers to widow or widower. Okay, now there is a John Hawthorne over here, but this is not the one who was the judge. This one here, next to William Hawthorne, right here, it says right there. Colonel John Hawthorne. It's kind of hard to read. It's kind of the etching on it there. But he was the judge during all those trials. Look at that. And that little marker, that etching that I just showed, is often winged. It is supposed to symbolize the passing of flesh from the body and was not meant to be frightening. That's interesting. They also sometimes will use a cherub. Just talking to one of the guides here. He was saying that it's not inscribed, but he said over here, the name's not on there, but one of the first millionaires anywhere in the US is inside here. It's debatable though. Some say yes, some say no. I mean, he's in there, but whether he was one of the first millionaires or not. And I'm drawing a blank on his name. Do you remember what the guy said his name was?
I don't remember what his name was.
It's not on the list though. So they're not allowed to put it on the list because there's no etching or name on there.
Looks like there was at one point, but I think it's worn away now. Something inscribed up here.
Oh, there you go, yeah. I think I'm going to go back over and ask the name so I can accurately give the info.
The tomb is Richard Derby. Richard Derby is his father, and the tomb is labeled with his father's name because the tomb was built for him. This map is about 100 years old and is not right about everything. So it's kind of a good jumping off point, but it's not a lot of the... They missed some stuff and then they said some stuff that's not technically true.
But he was Richard Derby's son?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Richard Derby's son.
Elias Haskett Derby.
Elias Haskett Derby. That's a great name. Dr. Grimshaw. That's like something that, yeah, it's like something, if you saw like a TV show from that era or a movie, you'd be like, they're very sickly. Take them to Dr. Grimshaw.
Dr. Grimshaw.
Call Dr. Grimshaw now. Aha. This is the Grimshaw house. Think Dr. Grimshaw ever thought that that would be something that would happen outside of his front door?
Maybe.
Someone on a forklift going onto the back of a truck. That would probably just completely blow his mind. Dr. Grimshaw.
Dr. Grimshaw.
The only reason I know that's Dr. Grimshaw's house is because it says number 5 right there, and that's labeled the Grimshaw house. And I like that they have this tree out front, which looks like a normal tree, except when you look at it on the creepy map. It's more Tim Burton-esque.
Spooky tree.
But it's just, look at this, it's just a regular tree in real life. And this is a little inscription here with some of the statements from the trial. Like, look at this one. I do plead not guilty. Everyone knows I am innocent, or someone knows I am innocent. Look at this. I am wholly innocent of such wickedness. Oh Lord, help me. If I would confess, I should save my, what? Wow. Okay, this is the founder, Roger, here. This is the sculpture we saw when we walked in. We walked over by that one museum. They had the big sculpture of him.
Which museum?
Yeah, there he is right there in wax form. The writer, Nathaniel Hawthorne, looks very deep in thought right here. Now this says Giles Corey was a violent man who feuded with his neighbors. He was fined for stealing. He was also thought to have burned down a barn and beaten a hired hand. Please do not reach within the scenes. An alarm will sound if you reach between. Don't try to reach into the boat. This kind of reminds me of like thinking the Phoenicians right here.
I was literally, this is very spaceship Earth.
You kind of get like a spaceship. These are not animatronics though. Yeah. These are all still, but kind of, yeah. Maybe you should
the Phoenicians.
Yeah,
they invented them.
Guilty. That is all. That is all.
That is all. Guilty.
Guilty. That is all. That is all. You look like you've seen a ghost. A ghost. What's he looking at? What are you looking at up there? What are you looking at? What is that? What's that right there? These are very haunting. These are very haunting wax figures. Like just the look right there. You look like you've seen a ghost.
They all look like they're seeing something that we're not seeing.
What exactly is he looking at? I keep looking up there to see, like, if you think the sprinkler system, I guess like I don't know, maybe not really 100% sure, but yeah. Oh, that's very clever. No stopping or you'll be towed. You'll be towed. Look, it's a toad with getting his car towed. This was Samuel Pickman's house. Right next to there. And Samuel Pickman was a mariner and had this house built in 1657. Besides the historical significance, it is said that you could see occasionally the apparition of a girl in the window on occasion up there. So the story goes. It's a very impressive church building down there. Okay, you said you found something else informative. Where are we going?
Yeah, so we're heading to the Joshua Ward House, which is the home that belonged to the sheriff in Salem. And there's a room, I guess, in the house that George Washington stayed at
Nice.
At one point in his life. So that's pretty cool. Figured we'll go check that out.
Oh, nice. The London Coffee House, meeting place of patriots before the American Revolution and Restoration in 1971. It is now modern day Red's Sandwich Shop. That's the old coffee house right there. Drinking coffee all the way back then in late 1600s.
Yeah, this was George Corwin's house during the Salem witch trials. So this was George Corwin's house, and then I guess it was Joshua Ward's house, and then George Washington, when he visited Salem, requested to specifically stay in this house right here.
And now, if someone wanted to stay there, they could. Now it's a hotel. Come for the smells, stay for the spells. Ooh. Right here in front of the seafood restaurant, used to be Lyceum Hall, which is where Alexander Graham Bell presented the first public demonstration of long-distance telephone conversations. Following the demonstration, the first news dispatch sent by telephone originated here and was received by the Boston Globe. It was published the following day. That's pretty cool. Doesn't really tie into the spookiness.
Yeah, it's not very spooky, but just cool little history fact.
I love that kind of stuff. It's now a seafood place. Look at this, there's a big fish right there. Such a neat little town. And I have to say, covers a lot more area than I was expecting. I thought it was gonna be like a block or two. It's like a whole area, whole region.
Pretty huge space.
And now back in my car and just kind of driving around the area, I had to show this very notable house that a lot of people visit called the House of the Seven Gables, based on a book, right?
Yeah, Nathaniel Hawthorne's novel by the same name.
I never read that book. Did you read it?
I don't think I've ever read a book, ever.
You've never read a book?
Maybe I have, I don't know.
Come on.
Maybe one or two.
You've never read a book?
Cat in the Hat count?
All right, just discovered that the building I was just looking at is just the entryway in to the House of the Seven Gables. Because look over here. Didn't even see this from the road. 1668. There's also Nathaniel Hawthorne's birthplace as well. And I had to look up, I did not know what a gable was, But a gable is the design of the roof. As such, that kind of A-framed roof design would be considered a gable. So this one has 7 gables. Hence the name. And someone on property just walked by and they were saying that the book has a gothic overtone, a gothic
love story.
A gothic love story. That's what made this house famous. And the fact that it has 7 A-framed arch roof sections making up the 7 gables. No affiliation with Clark or Anne of Green. This whole historic district, though, I really like. Well, I mean, I like the way the buildings look. Like, look at this, it almost looks like kind of like a barn style. But they also add in who used to live here, not who was the current resident, but this mariner by the name of Penn Townsend lived here in 1771. Now, if I'm incorrect and that's the address, I'm going to feel very foolish. But I think that's the date. No, it's not the address because look, the address is number 43. Over here on Hardy Street, like this quaint little old store that used to be here, storefront, and the building behind is pretty neat. But what I would really want to show, or maybe even step inside if they're open, is America's oldest candy company, home of something called a Gibraltar. All right, and here's a little information. This is America's first commercially sold candy, the Gibraltar. Look at this little photo right here. I don't know, that's kind of an interesting photo. Do you want to get peppermint?
I don't know.
With peppermint and lemon.
I do peppermint over lemon.
You want peppermint?
Right?
Let's do peppermint.
Yeah.
And these are blackjacks, which a blackjack is America's first stick candy. The Gibraltars enclosed in this jar are roughly 200 years old. These Gibraltars. Now the interesting thing is, when we walked up here, I wasn't even sure if they were going to be open. Turns out there was a bunch of people in there.
Yeah, it was packed.
There was like 25 people in there.
Yeah.
It's taste test time. Gibraltar. Peppermint Gibraltars.
I don't know what to make of this.
What is this thing? Okay, is this just one of them?
Sticky. Yeah, that's just one.
This is just one of them?
Okay, so I'll open up another one on my Gibraltar.
We did not get the lemon. What flavor did we get?
Peppermint.
Peppermint.
This is like hard as a rock.
All right, let's do it. So it looks like it's going to be soft. It's not soft. Oh, it's not soft. Oh my God. Kind of good.
Really tough.
It's almost too hard.
Yeah.
I can see why these didn't take off. Modern day. I can't even bite into this.
It's like a dog treat.
Yeah, I don't know if I really like those. Not really too into the old Gibraltars. Oh my gosh, it almost maybe seems like you just need to savor it.
Yeah.
But how can you put this whole thing in your mouth? It's not like, I don't know.
It's a pretty heavy piece.
Yeah, I think I'm good with that. And then the blackjacks. Old-fashioned molasses stick candy.
So these are gonna be the blackjacks. These things look like hard candy too. Like it's like this is like your grandpa's favorite candy. Like hard.
Grandpa.
Pappy's favorite candy.
Let's pop it open.
If I can get it open here.
I feel like we're not even gonna finish all these.
Definitely not.
Now this seems like something.
One
there
for
we go.
you.
Oh my
One
God.
for me.
This thing is like a weighted bat.
Well, molasses is kind of like syrup. So,
you know,
made with black strap molasses. Originated in Salem. A lot of fun facts here in the back.
oh, there we go. George W. Pepper, circa 1830. You know, the lighting would be a lot better for this if I wasn't standing directly under this tree.
Yeah, it's a little dark.
It's almost like, I feel like I'm smoking a stove like Arnold.
Smoking a stogie.
That's right. Come on, do it.
Smoke a stogie in Salem.
Smoke a stogie here. Come on, do it. Come on,
stogie.
come on, Ben. Come on, stick a stogie in my mouth here.
Stogies.
All right, this is going to be the last stop of the day. So this was used in Hocus Pocus also. I've seen a lot of people post pictures from this house.
Yeah, it's pretty popular.
This is probably one of the most popular spots in Salem, especially
Definitely.
movie locations. Overlooking the water here. This is the corner of Ocean Ave and Shore Avenue. What character's house was this?
So this was Max and Danny's house in the movie.
And even in the couple minutes we've been standing here, someone already drove by and was taking photos and video out the window. So I would imagine a lot of people probably come by to see this. And this is interesting. This says tour buses excluded. So you can't bring a tour bus down through here. Think people will bring a tour bus to see this house?
Maybe. They probably don't want too many people driving by, so they probably like to say no tours.
Yeah, this residential area.
But I mean, most people stop by at least to take a photo or check it out.
I imagine during Halloween time, there's a ton of people in front of this house.
Oh yeah, so like during Halloween time, I don't know if this lady lived here or if she was just trying to make a quick buck. But some lady like set up like a stand with like just kind of movie stills and stuff from like the movie.
All right, that's gonna do it for today. From Salem, Massachusetts. There's a lot of different Salems in different states. There's a Salem, Oregon, Salem, New Hampshire.
Yeah, so we actually went to Salem, New Hampshire when we were supposed to be coming here one time.
Oh, you were telling me a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, you typed in the wrong place and you ended up in Salem, New Hampshire.
In the wrong Salem.
I would imagine there's probably more than just a couple Salems. There's a lot of Salems. But this is the one most notable to most people. Which city? Just kind of looking at all those boats over there. All right, I'll see you in the next video. The vlog is over.